Oh, aloha everyone. Joshua Hayes at BigWaveTrading.com with a weekend trade recap video. We're going to try to keep these more bite-sized. So what I'm going to do this weekend is we're going to review my worst trade from Friday, and it was actually the only ugly trade, and technically I'm still in the position. So it could always turn around. It hasn't hit my final stop, but we'll see what happens on Monday. And then we'll just go over two winners from Friday's session that really stand out on the chart. I want to remind everyone, yes, we're cherry picking them this weekend, but whenever you're trading, you're not going to get big winners on most of your trades. If you're trading correctly, hopefully you're right around 60 to 70% of the time on an end of day basis. And usually 80% of your trades are going to be small gains or hopefully only small losses, with the other 20% hopefully being those big winners that really make up your portfolio. Like, so 20% of the stocks you'll go long will be your big winners, 80% should be small losses, small losers, and 0% is the goal, should be big losers. The beautiful thing in an era of $0 commissions on an end-of-day basis, once you get long a stock, especially via my methodology, via good to cancel buy stop limit orders up and through the price level, and we do have one new long position we'll go over here at the end of the video, you can set your stop loss at $0 and technically cut your loss at break even every time until you do catch one of those 20% winners. Now, normally, I always recommend everybody 10 stocks, 10% of your portfolio. 20 stocks max at 5%, 5 stocks minimum at 20% each. And that's kind of risky on an end-of-day basis in this market, which brings me the point of this chart. We got to talk about this. The SPY continuously sells off on heavier volume and continuously rallies in V-shaped manners on lower volume. This has been the modus of operation for this market since January 2018. Every V-ramp volume or V-ramp move that you see me doing on this chart is accompanied with lower volume on every push higher, while it was preceded by a heavier volume sell-off. This has flipped, which is not shown on this chart because I use Telechart version 7 for end-of-day basis only. Intraday, real-time data, Telechart version 19. Thinkorswim, I have trade ideas, and there's other, and Interactive Brokers, other various platforms. But the bottom line is on the end-of-day basis, what I'm not showing here is that on a monthly time frame, on all of my indices, despite the S&P 500 hitting new highs, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, QQQ, and even though the IWM is going sideways, which explains a lot actually, these things have negative monthly time segment volume where the line, the time segment volume line, is below the moving average. They have not crossed up yet. I've got a lot of indicators on a monthly time frame that are positive. Time segment volume still is not one. So ever since January 8, 2018, I've been taking a lot of trades and I hold a lot of positions, and I recommend that people don't necessarily trade like me because I am more risk averse, but I have time to do it. I have a large enough end-of-day portfolio that I can do this to where even small gains add up to enough money that it produces a nice income, and I can do this for a living. But at the same time, I would love to get the signals that I used to get or be in a market where the overall uptrend was strong enough that then even I could take these kind of signals that I'm getting and push more of my capital into. But right now I can't. So that's why when we go over these, you got to realize I have a lot of winners. But yes, this weekend we are cherry picking the best overall looks since I've gone long both of the names. We're just going to go over two. So let's start off first with my big loser from Friday, ELMD. Now, ELMD is very interesting because I've gotten lucky on this one on multiple occasions. First off, I wanted to trend join ELMD, so I set a good to cancel buy stop limit order at 1041 on November 19th. That never triggered before selling off. That being said, as you can see as it sells off, it maintains the balance of power. The volume isn't heavier than the uptrend volume, so I keep that order live even in the middle of this pullback. Then on this session here, I basically got a reversal doji candle on heavier above average volume and a pocket pivot point signal, so I set an add, quote, quote, add signal at a good to cancel buy stop limit order of 921. Now on this session here, a little bit of luck comes into play. ELMD triggers on my end, fills some of my shares at 921, but remember, once it triggers its stop, that's my limit, 921. I didn't get filled on all the shares I was trying to get on ELMD. However, the very next session, there's a second add signal. Bullish candle over candle, above average volume, max green bop. I throw out another good to cancel buy stop limit order at 926. The next day, ELMD gaps up, and look at what the low a day is, 929. So both of those orders never get filled, and ELMD starts marching higher. Now, following this session here, on what I got filled here, this is how my stops went. So following this session right here, let's just do this. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I had an emergency sell stop, which I always do initially right here, just in case if right after I go long, even if it looks good, all of a sudden there's a flash crash day and ELMD closes down at 5. That's what that final emergency stop is there for. And at the same time, it's there to let the stock have room to work if it wants to work higher. By the way, that white arrow on this chart indicates that's the day that I got filled on Telechart. So as we move higher on the very next day, I'm really crazy with my stops. I'll remind everybody, I put a good amount into these stocks, even when they're only 1% of my capital, and I only pay $1 in commissions to Interactive Brokers. It can be a little bit more with these sub $10 stocks whenever I start to get to 1,000 shares plus on them, but it's negligible to the total dollar amount invested. So I had a stop here. Boom, right there, that stop is hit. I add another stop right here. Now the 941 stop is splitting hairs with the 928, but that's how tight I am right now. That one gets hit. You'll see the 925 low right there, but what did not happen is the 928 stop did not trigger that day on the Interactive Broker system, so I adjust that stop to 924, but I'm already out some for small negligible profits. All good. This day, reversal candle, heavier above average volume, I add another stop at 976. All is well. That stop does not trigger. And then on Friday, boom, bam, crash. Triggers this stop, triggers this stop, triggers this stop. The last stop remaining for ELMD is right here. At the time, it was $7.99. Following Friday session, it now gets moved to right here. So my final stop on ELMD is 838. But because of the stops, while the stock is down since my entry the day before of right around 6%, my total gains and losses on the overall position is actually, before this stop triggers and fills, this will change it, is still actually at a 1% gain. Thanks to the way that I march stops up. But even on an end-of-day basis, let's pretend like you took it on an end-of-day basis. This is a 100% sell signal, according to my methodology on an end-of-day basis. Boom. 6% loss on an end-of-day basis. So keep that loss in mind now as we look at two winners, starting with a long-term one, RH. RH's first long signal was back here. I'll show everyone what it looked like. Earnings winner, RH was already canceling quality, huge short float. I believe it was over 30% even then. It's still over 30%. Reversal hammer candle on above average volume, max green bop 2 days in a row. I'm not sure, but I think it had to have been. Maybe not. But I was familiar with RH because it's already been a mainstay before in my perfect speculator scan based on the criteria in the book, The Perfect Speculator by Brad Kodeshwar. RH is pretty much stair-stepped higher. I've added to the position. I've been shaken out of some, but following this earnings win here, this was the only day I got shaken out of some. I added to it here, and it did this day there, and I got shaken out of some. Also, it did this day right here, put a stop right below that day, got shaken out of some. Still, holding the vast majority of RH, and as you can see, RH has been a big winner since that first long signal. 117% gain in almost half a year, 6 months. Like I said, they don't always work like this. But if you're constantly rotating 10 names, you buy 10 stocks somehow, and each name you get in, if you cut your losses immediately on the ones that don't work, then you immediately roll the capital into the new long position. If that new long position works, great. You roll into the next one. If that one fails, so be it. You move your capital into the next one until you hit RH. RH's stop right here whenever we went long was at 106.75. You can see it never violated 106.75 following the initial entry. And that, I always use the second stop with the gap fill, but that should have been a good first stop. And had you done it, things worked out really well. And that's whenever you try to get onto one of these, and a stock like RH, that takes care of all your small losers and all your small winners. Boom, right there, just like that. So then the last one we'll go over is MTNB. MTNB. Now, MTNB gave me a new long signal on this date. It's a hammer reversal candle pattern right off strong price support on above average volume with max green bop. More importantly, it's in my perfect speculator scan. The next day, does not trigger, does not fill, but then the next day it triggers and fill. I am long at 121 because my good to cancel buy stop limit order is always 1 cent above the high of the day. Bam, I'm long MTNB. But on this day, here's an ad signal. Candle over candle, hard to see, but a slightly above average volume. Max green bop, perfect speculator scan. I added the position. 1% was available. I am filled now at 125 on MTNB, so the average is right around 123. And my first profit target, because there's overhead resistance, whereas RH is a trend following one because it's canceling perfect speculator. There was clear overhead resistance on MTNB at 141. So whenever MTNB hit 141 this day right here, I indeed took off 50% of my position. My next profit stop now, following this session, becomes its high a day 152 because there's a big reversal off the highs on the heaviest volume of its uptrend. However, MTNB did not care. And of course, I got knocked out of another 50% profit target. But just to let you know about average, we'll go ahead and round up on this. All of those gains are for over 20%, and it's a very quick 20%. I'm very happy. Now, I do have a current final profit target on half of the share size. If the next profit target's hit before this comes into play, I don't think there is one. 399 is my next one. But moving forward with MTNB, I am right. It's just continued to move higher. For right now on MTNB, how I'm trailing my stops, I have a profit stop here, a profit stop there, a profit stop here, well, this is going to be about a break-even stop right here. Then I have one final sell stop here. So sell stop, break-even stop, profit, profit, profit stop. My next profit target on the remaining shares that I have, 50% profit target, good to cancel sell limit order at Interactive Brokers, is at that 399 level. Since getting long, if we just use the second ad signal, that's a 56% gain in MTNB from the ad signal, 61% gain from the original signal. So we had 117% gain in RH. We have a 61% gain in MTNB. And I want to remind everybody, this was my worst trade on Friday, my worst performer in my portfolio, the ugly duckling, in a portfolio that is chock full of long positions. Breadth was 75% positive on Friday, even with the weak end of day close. It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. But remember, we're comparing that to a 6% loss. And that now takes us to the new public long signal because it's liquid, it's higher price, it's canceling quality, it's in my perfect speculator scan. I don't love the chart, but it is super solid. And like I said, if the market was completely lined up on my end, if we were pulling back on lower volume, rallying on higher volume, I want to remind everybody, market's not bad. It's just I've got negative divergences in all of my oscillators and indicators short term. I don't have a monthly time segment volume that's bullish, but the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline line is sitting just below its all-time high, and the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline volume line is actually at all-time highs, and that's my preferred confirmation, leading, lagging indicator to the market. If it's lagging and the market's making new highs, eventually the market's going to pull back. If it's leading and the market's not at new highs, it's going to probably hit new highs. And that's what we've seen this entire rally in 2019. I've watched that NYSE advanced decline and NYSE advanced decline volume line lead us the whole way higher. But if there were more things lined up, I say, sure, go ahead, load up. And if you want to, you actually can. So I am already long MANT. And yes, as you know, trailed stops higher. So when it pulled back here, got knocked out of some profit stops, got knocked out of more profit stops. And then, of course, on this gap down, it basically took me out of everything. I have right around a 20% position from my original position in MANT right here, because initially my final stop was here. Now, following Friday's session, MANT is printing a bullish candle over candle on heavier above average volume with a pocket pivot point signal on increasing green balance of power. So, with it being canceling perfect speculator quality, with all of those conditions being set, the next thing I look at is, do I have a previous measured move of 3 or more to a 1 inherent risk ratio level? And for me, that's always a combination of what I'm going to tell you guys. If you take this trade, if you're a new trader, or if you want to load up on this trade, here's where your first stop should be. Here's where your final stop should be. However, if you take a more rational position, this is how I'm going to be tiered if I get filled. First stop, second stop, third stop, final stop, since I already have a position. Now, the other option is, if you want to load up on this name, a close below this uptrend line, you will get completely out. Why do I not do that? Remember ELMD? Well, here was ELMD's uptrend line. If I would have waited for a close, even if you did, you only lost 6%. But here's why I don't do it. Once again, very risk averse overall with my portfolio, with the way the market is right now. It's not always like that. I get very aggressive when things are lined up, and or I have hot charts. And I don't consider MANT, even though it looks good, to me that's not a hot chart. But either way, if you go in size, there's your uptrend line on MANT. Pretty nice chart, just not the greatest. It is what it is. So that's about the ifs, ands, or buts behind everything. As we head into Monday, short term, hey, price is all that matters. I'm not trying to get in front of this market. If you guys remember, I had a SPY short idea where I wanted to sell a call, or sell multiple bearish call spreads and buy puts in the SPY. Well, following its first day of actually cracking off the highs, I set those orders up. They were ready to go, and we gapped down. Following the hammer reversal, now looks like we're bottoming. I had this gap down day, I had a ton of long signals. I don't fight that. And look at what's happened. So, we'll see if that trade setup comes again, but until I get another reversal, I don't plan on shorting this uptrend anytime soon, with or without volume. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, and if you want to ask me any questions whatsoever, I love talking shop. But unfortunately, nobody seems to love talking shop with me on social media or on YouTube. But if you can show me some love, I'd really appreciate it. Let me know what you'd like to see even in these videos. I try to make this one short. And look, we're hitting the 18-minute mark right here. So I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Aloha, everyone.